Hello, folks. Welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. And the Democratic Alliance, a member of the Government of National Unity Coalition with the ANC, has spoken. Yeah, they have spoken. In a press release today, in response to President Trump's promise to end all future foreign assistance to South Africa, they said the following: the United States has been a long-standing and valued partner to South Africa. No, I'm sorry. We, the United States, like the Democratic Alliance, have been taken for suckers by the communists within the African National Congress. Finished in Clark. Folks, the Democratic Alliance cannot read the room. While the ANC is, as a political party, silent on the matter, the DA felt the need to rush out a press release on President Trump's decision to end all future aid to South Africa, scoring in the process an own goal. So a few questions about this press release. Number one, is the DA living in a bubble? Did they bother to listen to what Trump said? It's about much more than expropriation without compensation. How is the DA so clueless? All you had to do was watch his brief answer to a question on Andrews Air Force Base and realize that this is much deeper than expropriation.
Confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
The press statement says the DA clarifies misconceptions and reaffirms commitment to fostering strong South Africa-U.S. relations. Why, thank you. But please explain your role within DIRCO, the foreign ministry, to me. The minister is Ronnie Lamola, ANC. The deputy minister is Alvin Boats, ANC. So what exactly is the influence you exert within that ministry? You're not in the foreign ministry. So please explain to the world how it is you're exerting influence there. While the act does need to be amended to meet the sequencing requirements. Sequencing requirements? What? Like before we steal your property, we will do this, that, and then take it? Sequencing events. Are we talking about genetically modified organisms, gene splicing, or are we talking about land expropriation? The statement also says there are also opportunities to deal with other concerns that have been raised in the public since the assertion to the act. Other opportunities. Really? Is there a legitimate reason you failed to mention any of these other opportunities in your press conference a few days ago?
It requires a level of maturity and partnership that to date has not been displayed.
You seem mostly to bemoan the fact that Ramaphosa was dismissive as coalition partners. You were long on grievances to share with the public, but bereft of any mention of these so-called opportunities. Now, why is that? How about mentioning them in this puff piece press release? It is not true that the act allows land to be seized by the state arbitrarily. Well, Democratic Alliance, no one claimed that it does. Your comment is not even remotely germane to the topic. See, folks, this is what leftist politicians do. They distract with nonsense to help you lose your focus. And once again, the Democratic Alliance misses the boat entirely. The actual content of the law is irrelevant if land thieves take the law into their own hands, as squatters have done in Shisheho and Limpopo, and if the authorities sit by and do nothing, as they've done in Polokwane. Their excuse was Ramaphosa gives them the authority to expropriate for the public good, as determined by the land thieves themselves. Does the DA understand the concept of cause and effect? This law is leading to effects. People taking the law into their own hand and expropriating because Ramaphosa told them they could. Now, of course, that's bunk, that's nonsense, but it really doesn't matter to the low information people out on the street who will do what they want because they've been encouraged to do it by the ANC. It does require fair compensation for legitimate expropriations in terms of Section 25 of the Constitution. Really? Well, I'm so confused about this argument. The existing Section 25 of the Constitution does require fair and just compensation. And in this regard, and to the DA's insane statement above, if compensation is still required, why is the law colloquially known as the Expropriation Without Compensation Law? And do you need a definition of the word nil? Because that's what's in the bill and in the law now, nil compensation. As a noun, the word nil means zero. As an adjective, it means non-existent. So the government can give you nothing. Well, that sounds like zero compensation to me. The DA goes on saying it's unfortunate that individuals have sought to portray this act as an amendment to Section 25 of the Constitution. Are you smoking your socks? Who is portraying this as an amendment? You've not done the amendment process. Rational, lucid, literate folks are telling you it is not an amendment, but rather that it is unconstitutional. It's in conflict with Section 25 of the Constitution. There is an incongruity here. Now, this from the South African Parliament's website regarding the Expropriation Without Compensation Law. The introduction of the Expropriation Bill should not be confused with the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. See, there you go. The Parliament tells us it was an amendment. We don't have to be rocket scientists or constitutional attorneys to figure this out. They told us. The amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution seeks to allow expropriation without compensation, whereas the Expropriation Bill seeks to outline how expropriation must be done. For example, guide the processes and procedures for expropriation of property by organs of state. Why? There's no need for this law. The existing law and the Constitution allow for expropriation with compensation. Why change the law except to cow political opponents of the regime of the day or to steal from South Africans? It's superfluous. There is no need for this law. If it was about land, which is what the ANC and now the DA seem to claim, there are mechanisms existing to address land. In the legitimate period when land claims were filed, 74,000 of the 75,000 plus land claims from the 1995 to 1999 window were resolved over 2 decades ago. The topic only exists for political advantage of politicians using race hustling to divide South Africans, and now the DA has joined them in supporting this abomination. The DA continues saying, it would be a tragedy if this funding were terminated because of misunderstanding of the facts. A misunderstanding of the facts. Might you share with the public why you were so angry last week about being left in the cold and now defend a law you spent 6 years vehemently opposing as a bill? Also, you can imagine how after a telephone conversation with Ramaphosa, the United States was caught off guard with Ramaphosa signing into law legalized property theft 3 days after he spoke to Trump and he was sworn in. This occurred at the World Economic Forum in Davos, no less. And what misunderstanding? So are you trying to tell me, Democratic Alliance, that under the new law, the national, the provincial, or municipal governments cannot expropriate your property with nil compensation? So that can't happen. Well, then why is this even a topic? Is that your claim, Democratic Alliance? That's the misunderstanding? And finally, if it still requires fair compensation, why is it colloquially known as expropriation without compensation? And that has been what it's been called by the media, by politicians, since the bill was introduced in 2018. And the fact that it says nil compensation would seem to indicate that is, in fact, a bill for no compensation. The DA had over 6 years to make this point. But in opposition, you simply oppose the bill. Now, in a coalition with the African National Congress, you defend the law. The DA ends his press release with the following. Property rights are foundational to the success of our economy, and the DA will always fight to ensure they are fully protected. Except that you're not fighting. Where are you leading the charge to overturn this bill or this law is unconstitutional with a Section 80 challenge to the Constitutional Court? You're silent. You're not even telling your constituents that that needs to be done. You're completely ignoring South Africans. You're letting the 30-day window expire so as not to jeopardize your buddy-buddy, chummy-chummy relationship with the ANC in your grand coalition. You're not defending property rights. If you were, you would be leading the charge to get 132 members of parliament, 1/3 of parliament, to sign a letter to send the Constitutional Court within 30 days of Ramaphosa signing, which was 23 January 2025, to get this thing deemed unconstitutional. But you're not defending property rights. You're part and parcel of this corrupt, rotten government. They say they successfully opposed any change to Section 25 of the Constitution, which protects property rights, and will continue to work to ensure the expropriation amendment is constitutionally sound in every respect. Well, it's not an amendment. It's not an amendment. It's a new law, and it's unconstitutional in every respect. So what do you think, South Africa? Is the DA right? Is this an overreaction from Trump? Are we smoking our socks, or is the DA smoking its socks? You tell me. Cheers.